clear.
Around about 2019, many of you will remember what happened that year. We had what you call COVID-19. Our church, which is City of Worship, like many other churches, found itself in a place of despair. And for us, it was a different despair. It was a great opportunity to do great work. In fact, we spent that year walking through every verse, every word of the book of Daniel. And it was such an interesting journey that we took. Little did I know that walking through the book of Daniel would produce what you are about to receive today. So I just want to give you the context that much of what I'm going to share with you, I owe it to the devotion, the discussions that we had at City of Worship. Now, City of Worship is a group of house churches, and for some reason, the Lord has been so kind that our church is made up of professionals. And it's not that I went out looking for professionals. It just so happened that that's a group of people from those houses that were brought together. So as we dealt with the book of Daniel, many of them would ask questions, and these questions brought us to understand something key that had happened in the time of Babylon. And so I will just give you the scripture reference to it. And as I said, the sermons are somewhere out online. You can get them. But I need to be honest and also cite my sources. I've seen some material out there that is taken directly from the book of Daniel without acknowledging it. And it's key and it's important that we know where you get your sources from. And so today, you need to know a term I'm going to be using right through, and that is 10 times better than the best. And it's been a difficult one to try to shorten. Everything these days has an acronym. And so you will see TTB, greater. So that sign is greater. You may remember back in high school or school, you had that sign greater and less than. So it's TTB, TTB greater than B. So that simply means 10 times better than the best. And this comes out of a discussion and a presentation in the book of Daniel, chapter 1, verse 19 to 20, where it is recorded as follows. Then the king interviewed them, and among them, none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore, they served before the king, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding, about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians, astrologers who were in his realm. Some of you may pause and ask, who are these? We know Daniel. And I want to pick up an issue with many of us preachers because we've made their foreign names. And these names, as an African, you know very well that they are names that are given to others, which are derogative, that are negative, that are looking down, and that dehumanizes others. And so today, I want to start on that note, that in my presence, and I hope from now on, you will choose to address these boys, we call them, with their real names, with their God-given name, with their godly name. Because the truth be told, when you continue to say they are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you are promoting and perpetuating the insult that happened to them. I'm not preaching. I was just passing by to let you know that their real names are Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And these names, they're locked inside these names is their God destiny. And so it's important that we understand that context. But be that as it may, what we want to lift up out of this is they were found to be 10 times better than the best. I watched a movie years ago called The Great Debaters. Now, I hardly watch a lot of movies, but when I do, they normally have an impact in my life. And in this movie, a teacher who was teaching this debate team admonished and encouraged his students to work hard and to work smart. But he put it in such a way, he says, you'll play later. You'll have fun later. You will do whatever you want later. But for now, and as long as you are in my class, and for as long as we are together, you have to do what you have to do. And later on in life, you'll be able to do what you want to do. Put it differently. In this class, we do what we have to do in order to do what we want to do. And this level of freedom often attacks young people who would want to be older sooner than they realize. And the older people are looking at them thinking, had you known, you will come down a bit. You will come down to know. And the truth be told, this speaks of investment in the time of investing. You have to know what it is that you have to do. Many of us have to go to work. Many of us have to do particular things. Truth be told, if we do what we have to do when we have to do it, there comes the opportunity that we get to do what we want to do once we've paid our dues. I'll leave it there and continue with you and maybe give you more context. Well, in the context of the scripture we read, I just want to lift a few things also. That the king, you heard that he interviewed them and he found them 10 times better than the best. But I summarized a few of the requirements. You know, every job has its own requirements. Well, their job was somehow phrased this way, that he had to find young men without blemish. And from that, I picked up that he was pretty much looking for young men of integrity. And I'm sure as leaders and as people who hire others, people who work with others, you will agree that, these Babylonian requirements are not things that are adverse to you. In fact, they are quite good requirements. And I want you to pay attention to them. And he says also handsome in appearance. And this one is very contested because beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. However, I lift up from it that they must be presentable. He said they must be skillful in all wisdom. Now, this one is interesting because it's a combination of to know or the know how to and when to. You see, wisdom has to do not just with knowledge or with information or whatever you have, but is to know when to apply it. So the how plus the when has been put together. Therefore, it qualifies as wisdom. And he also said they must be endowed with intelligence and discernment. Speaking about IQ and EQ, as leaders, you are quite aware that some people are very intelligent, but have no people skills and have no emotional quotient, if you would. And therefore, what is encouraged here is a balance between your IQ and your EQ. And also, they must be quick to understand. And my understanding of that is they are curious and capable. It's one thing for you to be curious and find something, and yet you are not capable of executing that which you are curious about. And lastly, he says they must be competent to stand and able to serve. And I simply paraphrase that to say able to stand pressure with grace. Now, we can deal enough with that. As you know, I'm a pastor by you scratch me, all you'll find is a minister in me. But today, speaking to you as leaders of industries, it's important that we lift this up and put it in such a way that you are able to apply it elsewhere, even in environments that are not so familiar or rather so conducive to your Christian faith. Allow me to quote this for you. It was said in 1972 regarding the following, that John Wooden said, talent is God-given. And almost to say, therefore, the antidote of that, I could almost add to say the beatitude of that. I know these are not part of the beatitudes in the Bible. However, he simply put it together that talent is God-given. You get that from God. And in order for you to manage it well, in order for you that your talent must not make your head too full or too big, be humble. He noted that faith is man-given. The best way that, because some of you cannot stop the fame. You are famous. You are known for the good work you do sometimes. Well, he says the best way to deal with it is be grateful. But then he said, don't sit to be conceited. It's self-given. Be careful. Be humble. Be grateful. Be careful. And as we talk about talent management, I feel there's few things I need to define because once we do that, then we know where we're going and we can use this together in this context without struggling. What does Ntseno mean about these things? So in case you're wondering, what is this talent economy? Well, allow me to tell you that in the talent economy, talent and expertise take center stage. And this, when we call up talent economy, it functions a little bit like the gig economy. And in case you're not familiar with what gig economy is, it's a labor market that is characterized by the prevalence of short-term contracts or freelance work as opposed to permanent jobs. And so this is where companies have leveraged on expertise and they didn't have to employ those people permanent. And some of you will say, but that's exploitation. Well, there are certain people who don't want to be bound by contracts, and yet they want to offer their skills. And companies have leverage on that, and we call that gig economy. However, in talent economy, your talent and expertise become the focus, not just the fact that you can do a particular job, not because they want people to do work. It's driven and it's focused on your talent. This empowers organizations to tap into an internal and external talent marketplaces with confidence and ease. And we can talk more about it, and I'm looking forward to later on for Q&A. But allow me to also define what I'll be talking about quite often. You'll hear today talking about OKRs, and these are objectives and key results. And you may hear me talk about SMART. When I talk about SMART, I'm not talking about people who are clever, but SMART is an acronym for when you set your goals that they must be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely or time-bound. And then when we talk about FAST, in the space of talent economy, we talk about setting your goals, and your goals must be the stuff that are frequently discussed. If you set a goal and it's hardly discussed, you are hardly going to have it done. If you have set the goal beginning of the year and you never discuss it with your team, you never discuss it with yourself, well, chances are you've forgotten about it. It must be ambitious enough, specific, and transparent. Any goal that is hidden, it's like that one talent that was hidden under the soil and nothing came of it. Lastly, when we speak of clear in talent economy, we speak of, again, setting up goals that when you work together with others, you need to have a collaborative effort. And somehow that must be defined in time also. So it must be limited to a particular period. And yet you need to be emotionally stable or emotionally mature. And you need to learn the art of being appreciative. And then lastly, your goal must be refinable. You must be able to adapt it. So these are the definitions that I might use loosely in my talk with you for the next few minutes left. And I just want you to know that this is what we mean by them. Again, in the talent economy, it's important for you to understand, unlike in the traditional way of doing things where we will invite people to apply and we will look at all your academic credentials and your experiences that you have worked at. In this economy, the tricks have changed. The requirements have changed. We no longer fooled. We are no longer fooled by your resume that is, cover to cover, 10 pages of all your experiences. In fact, some of those experiences, we take them as null and void. They've reached their shelf life. But not to say something wrong about your experiences. Well, you'll understand and realize that your experiences, they need to be adapted. They need to be revived. They need to have a different level of refining. But however, it's important when you talk about talent management, you understand that it starts with the person. See, as opposed to when you're starting and to want to hire and get somebody, you're thinking of the job first. Well, granted, you're thinking about the job that must be done, but it's important for you to have in mind what kind, and when I say one kind, it does not have to do with color, what type of person can and should, who are we looking for? And so therefore, it's important that you also understand that the concept of vision and mission must be central, must be the person who is able not only to understand the vision and mission, but to be able to articulate that and make it their own. If you hire anybody in your industry, in your company, who cannot identify with your vision and mission, it doesn't matter how many skills they have, how many degrees they have, they're going to sink your ship. This person must be able to understand targets, must be able to understand results, must be able to understand goals. And we call that OKRs. But also it's important that you understand that this person, what motivates them. Unless you share the why in the talent economy, you are going to have people filling the chairs in your industry, in your office, who are simply running the time, who are clocking in only to clock out and just warming your place. The one thing that you need to have, and these are the concepts that you must hold dear, is the impact. The people I'm about to talk to you about, the people that you are now need to manage, they understand that what they do needs to be part of a bigger scope, the bigger picture. They need to know, what impact does what I do fulfill? Am I just working in order to get paid? If so, you won't have this kind of people. You have other type of people, but not the people I'm about to talk about. The TTB, or double B, if you would, function differently. And when you speak to them, you need to speak to them in the language they understand. They have a different language. And you need to speak vision and mission. You need to speak targets and goals. And they need to understand the why of your existence, of your company. And they need to know they are contributing to something bigger. With that said, allow me to share with you a little bit more about this framework we call the OKRs. Now, first thing, OKR, the O, objective. By that we mean, what do I want to achieve? That's an objective. So if your workers, if your staff, they come in a day and they don't know what at the end of the day they're supposed to achieve or want to achieve, you are simply wasting not only your resources, you are wasting the economy. And soon you'll be out of business. So therefore, the objective must be clear. What is it that we want to achieve in a month, in a week, in a year? When we say we have succeeded, and maybe you can even translate that personally. Today I wake up, what do I want to achieve? Objective. Now you'll notice that the key results, the KRs, we make it more than one. It should be at least three, minimum three. Don't make it too many. And in this, the framework requires of you to ask the following question. What is the base level requirement to be successful? And by this, you need to be able to measure it. What metrics and milestones must I hit along the way for me to know that I'm actually reaching my goal? You can't say I'm setting the goal and, maybe in the end I'll see if I succeed. No. Your goal will be as good as you taking that talent and your goal, hiding it under the soil and cover it in plastic, and hopefully it will produce something. Many of us would have set goals. We know very well how goals we set are only inspired for the first few weeks of the year. And then by the middle of that month, you had forgotten what you said. It's because the objective is not clear. The next KR, you need to be able to know, okay, after 6 months, I should have been here. After 3 months, I should be here. After a week, I need to tell that I'm here. Here are the milestones. Now, the second one says, what level of achievement is realistic for me? Now, to say I want to have 10 million rand or $10 million, it's nice and it's ambitious enough. But how realistic that is for your company to turn around and have that revenue? And if it's a ministry, to say I want to have 10,000, reach 10,000 people, okay, that's a nice and ambitious goal, wonderful. But how realistic is it? What do you have in your hands to be able to produce that or achieve that? Again, what impact can this make? What am I hoping to impact? How is this contributing to the mission day, if that's what you're thinking for? How is this able to complete and achieve goals for our company? And that's a framework that you'll do well well to familiarize yourself. The last one, I said 2 to 3. I could add the last 4 to say, what is the best possible outcome imaginable? So in other words, the first one, you're looking at the baseline. What's the bare minimum? But now that I've established and I know where I'm going, what's the best possible outcome imaginable? What can I finally do? And there's a framework, and we can talk more about it, and you can read more. I'm sure there's enough literature out there. You can read on it. But allow me to share this with you. When we set goals, we need to be able to measure them. Setting them and measuring them. Sometimes those two things or those two positions are different. They require different mindset. But allow me to say the one thing they share in common is the tools we use to set goals and measure them are pretty much the same. And in fact, if you use the same tool that which you set the goals and it becomes the same tool you use to measure them, you will definitely going to succeed. For example, let's workshop this for a minute. So using the OKR framework, you will say, I will, that's your objective. I will, la, 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 measured by la, 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 and la, 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 and la, la, la. So I've got 2 examples. I know they're too small to read, but I will read them for you. Say, for example, you have a plan to design or come up with an evaluation system for 2024. So you'll say, I will develop a new evaluation system for 2024. That's wonderful. As measured by improving the internal feedback frequency to once a month for team leaders. Wonderful. And increasing feedback frequency for team members twice a month. So now we know every month you're going to get feedback from the team leaders. And then from them, you'll be able to know and ask all the questions how the team is doing. And then every 2 months, that way you are able to map your way to see whether you are advancing and whether you should make adjustments. Otherwise, if you do not evaluate it, you cannot measure it. Well, let's come up with another example that maybe it's not in marketplace, maybe it's in the church. Let's say, for example, you want to improve your biblical literacy. And I'm not saying revelation. I'm talking about you just wanting to have a better biblical literacy. And you say, in 2024, I will improve my biblical literacy as measured by how many genres I'm able to interact with, and by increasing my knowledge of the purpose of each book of the Bible. Now, that's different than someone reading the Bible from cover to cover, or whatever holy book you read from cover to cover. Many of you, by the time you're in the 3rd, 4th chapter, you've forgotten what the other one is. But if you set it up such that you have goals, you need to know what I've learned is this, and this is what I know. And by the end of the year, despite how many you have read, at least you could say, I know each genre of the Bible. I know what each book's purpose is. That way, your literacy, remember here, we're looking for literacy. Well, let's move on. Allow me to tell you about the TTBs, the 10 times better than the best persons. And I want to share their characteristics. And then once you know who they are, we can talk about how you as a leader need to manage them, or at least learn how to manage them. These people are people who are blessed, endowed with exceptional skills and a positive attitude and a clear vision. They come pre-packed with this. You can't give them vision. You can't give them good attitude. You can't give them skills. As you know, these are God-given. But allow me to pause here and tell you what best companies are doing these days. Best managers, even best HR. We no longer hire people for skills alone. Yes, we look for skills, but we prioritize attitude. You see, we can always upskill an individual with a good attitude, but you can never implant in someone good attitude, even if they have good skills. And that's key. It's a key movement. It's a key focus. Many would have hired best people. Their resume is perfect. It's just what we're looking for. And yet they have got low EQ, and they've got no people skills. They have an ugly attitude that infests the whole staff. And then you've got staff infection. And since they rock up with their best degrees, work is not done. The work environment is toxic. And this starts from the hiring process. The people I'm referring to, the people that we call them 10 times better than the best, they've got deep curiosity and enthusiasm. And this deep curiosity and enthusiasm is what fuels them. We call them catalysts because when they arrive in your company, when they arrive in your industry or your place of work, they somehow propel things. You could look back and say, ever since this person walked in here, our company has changed. And this is the same thing that Nebuchadnezzar would say, or the Babylon king will say, that these boys, they have been 10 times better than the best we can find in the whole region. And these people, they often work harder and smarter than anyone else in the room. They're not looking for praises. They do things behind the scenes. You don't have to push them. They're self-propelled. They do it, I'll tell you in advance, because they love what they do. They see the world as filled with opportunities and they can move on to the next available one when things don't go their way. In other words, they do realize that you don't have to force a work environment. And maybe it's because why they're working there, they don't work for salary. See, these are the people who understand that they don't live from the paycheck. They live with a purpose. I'll tell you more about that. Allow me then to also tell you that they are lifelong learners who can confront and overcome shortcomings, and they are ready to receive feedback. Now, by now, you can hear the type of people I'm referring to. See, any one of us who is allergic to feedback is somebody who cannot grow, who will not grow. In fact, I think of dams and rivers. The difference between them is the other one has just contained what it is, and soon it starts becoming stinky and smelly. Forgive the pun. It's important for me to parallel this. I just gave you the characteristics of a person. But these people, they also go into companies. And sometimes they go into a mediocre company. Now, this great individual, great skills, great attitude, they go to a mediocre company. They're going to have challenges. And you can tell the difference. See, a mediocre company, although there may be a way of productivity benefits of better work environments, however, they've got too many meetings and their micromanagement continue to be their default culture. Now, by so saying, I'm saying a 10 times better than the best individual does not function under micromanagement. And you cannot bore them every day with too many meetings because they achieve nothing. But many companies that could become better, but they're simply mediocre because there's a purpose to meetings. Too many of them become purposeless. Allow me to also share this with you, that organizations that understand that there are differences between generations and that they need to adapt their culture to accommodate the new workforce I'm referring to. However, they keep making excuses instead of adapting and personalizing their work environments for individuals. And they do this due to their inflexible, rigid infrastructure, which is mainly built around the collective. So in other words, they will do things the way they've always done because that's how we built this company. Best companies have been out of market because of inflexibility. It's important for us leaders to realize the seasons have changed, the roles have changed. We've got a new workforce, we've got a new mindset of new workers. Now, a best company, a TTB company, its characteristics are the following. To them, work is worship. And I know this will be interpreted differently depending what type of company you work with. But for many of you who understand the word worship, you understand that to them, if work is worship, work is not something that they do because they are forced to do. It's because they want to do it. And the ultimate pleaser is the Lord. So they don't do it for the boss. You are not their primary focus. Their focus is to make sure that by so doing, I am worshiping. And so the worship is not something they do on Sunday or on a holiday. They do it daily. They wake up to worship. And you'll understand when you look at productivity targets, they're simply incentives to set new targets. They are never satisfied with good. And these companies understand that they've implemented what I call the OKRs to build institutional culture, not pockets of excellence. So in other words, they are not satisfied that a particular department or a particular team is doing well. Their goal is to make sure this is an institutional culture. See, when quality, for example, is part of culture of the institution, you can stab that institution at any point, it will bleed quality. But if it's pockets of excellence, man, you have trouble. They've also implemented the why of their business to the whole team. Not some of us, but all of them. A story has been told to us of a janitor who worked at NASA. And then evaluators walked in and asked him, what do you do here? Mind you, he's a janitor. He's the guy who cleans the toilets and makes sure that, tissues and everything are there. When they asked him, what is it that you do here? He said, I help put men on the moon. Think about that. And ask yourself, will a gardener, will a financial exec in your company, will they be able to articulate what it is they do there? That's succinctly. And you could say, but he just cleans. What does it mean? He understands what he does is part of the bigger role. He understands the big scope. He understands that the impact of what I do, I help these men and women to be on them. Note, if you will, the company's commitment to conducting regular employee reviews is a testament to its dedication to helping employees achieve their career goals. If it cannot be evaluated, it cannot be adapted, it cannot be changed, it cannot be improved. Allow me to move you to the environment. So for you, the reason we are here this morning is to help you to manage in the TTB environment. It's a different environment, I need to let you know. Many of you would have noticed it. Many of you would have realized that things I'm talking about, it's like, aha, you was like, oh yeah, now I understand. I couldn't understand that employee. I couldn't understand that company. There's a difference between a mediocre company and a TTB. Now, I must admit, trying to manage the environment that is 10 times better than the best, it's simpler. It's like trying to mold water as you would clay. That spells like impossible, isn't it? But it's not, simply because managing it will not deal with control. It's not about controlling them. Freedom, not control, is how you get results in this economy. If you want to macromanage people, if you want to, put boundaries for the workforce that we are talking about, you are not going to get results. You'll just get people ticking the box. You need to understand, 9 to 4 is the fastest way to ruin your chances. And you mean how? Flexible hours, working hours. Certain people work better at different environments at different times. And if your company is not willing to tap into that level of skills, they'll give you far much more than what your 9 to 4 will give you. Consider the following. They understand the language of deliverables. Not, you must be at work at 8 and be out at no. If you do that, you're going to find people acting like cows. Just get in and get out because you want to control them and micromanage them. But these people, you put deliverables. I want this done. Here's my targets. Here's a project. And here's a bigger picture where we do it. You might be surprised that that task that you thought would take 6 months might take 3 months with a better results. But that's how they work. And I want to contrast the following. Most of us, we're looking for loyalty, punctuality, and productivity, as key focus in our companies. Be aware, the people I'm referring to, they function and understand expectations. See, if you tell them, clarify to them, I expect this, you'll get loyalty, you'll get punctuality, you'll get productivity, and much more. But if your focus is on loyalty, punctuality, and productivity, your expectations might just not be satisfied. Allow me to move you forward, and I'm actually looking for, I hope I've given you enough for you to feedback and ask questions. So I'll almost say in conclusion, but this is not a conclusion. I've just started off. So I'll say therefore to you, the TTBs are a rare breed of high IQ, high EQ, super talented problem solvers who deliver beyond expectations. And if you ask why, because they love what they do. They do it from a different platform. They don't do it for the salary. They can do it sometimes for free. And ask yourself that question. What is it that you're willing to do even if you didn't get paid for? Now that, when you find that, you're finding your purpose. And these people are super talented and super sought after. They get paid, some of them, much more than others are paid, simply because those who realize their value. But guess what? They can do the same even for less pay when they understand the bigger picture. Note, if you will, they excel in environments that they are allowed to do what they do for the cause they are committed to. And this reminds me of the Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Mind you, they were in exile. So like they applied to go there. So in other words, they are working in an environment that they did not desire, they did not voluntarily go to. But when they got there, it was as if they applied because they were interviewed, right? But they got there, they made best of the situation. So adversarial environment does not deter them. In fact, they excel amongst the storm. You'll realize that as exiles, they are limited in certain things, but how they carried out their work, it was clear they were doing it from a different motivation. Note, TTB persons are perpetually self-examining, continuous self-improvement, and they are constantly adapting what they do. They are never satisfied with yesterday's success. That was yesterday. They reached the objective. They are looking for the next one. The one before last, teamwork is at the heart of production for them. So is openness to feedback. So they can work in teams. See, the old school boss-employee hierarchy does not work in their environment. You work with expectations. They'll respect you, yes, but you may not have to take them through protocols. If that's what you're looking for, it'll take 10 years to get the work you need. But if you give them clear instruction, this is what is required, they'll proceed and surprise you. One last point I want to share with you, and therefore be prepared for engagement with you, is that a smart manager like yourself needs to learn to connect with the TTB in the language of TTBs, the 10 times better than the best. And their language is quite simple. It's language of priorities. It's language of objectives. It's language of deliverables. If you tell them, I need this done, you are most likely to get results. I thank you. And I don't know whether do I remove the screen so that I can see you when you talk. Otherwise, I can have the screen sharing. I thank you.